imagine this. Your boss hands you a list, not a project with a plan behind it, no vision, objectives, no clear picture of what success might look like. Instead, you could just get a list, 10 things, maybe 15. Some of them are big, some of them are vague, and none of them come with an order, a deadline, or any hint about which one she actually cares about. So here's the part that makes it so hard. She cares about all of them. They all have to get done. She wouldn't have handed them to you otherwise. So where do you start? You don't know because you don't know. You do the only thing that makes sense. You throw yourself at the whole list, a little bit of everything, some progress here, a meeting scheduled there, a document started there. You're moving on it. You're busy. You're working nights to get it all done. And then in a few weeks, you look up and something's wrong. Your brain is foggy. You're stretched thin across 15 open loops and you can't hold any of them in your head anymore. You're working harder than you have in years and almost nothing is actually finished. And that's the moment that I want to talk about today because so many women get stuck right there. That fog is not a character flaw. It's not a time management problem. It's what happens to a good leader who hasn't been given the permission to choose. My guest today lived exactly this. Mandy leads a clinical department in a hospital, and she was in our strategic leadership lab where every woman brings a real piece of work from a real job. And what she did with it changed how her boss sees her. So let's get into it. You're going to love this story. I'm Jill Avey, a career success coach, and this is SisterSmart Leadership, the show that explores how women can rise from director to vice president and beyond by fully leaning into their feminine energy as their biggest advantage. Let's get you one step closer to the recognition and promotion you deserve. Thanks so much for being on the show, Mandy. I'm really excited that we get to talk today and hear a little bit about your experience in the Women's Leadership Lab. And so I remember when you were in the lab, you and I were working together on your special project, and you decided your supervisor had just handed you this big list of priorities, and it was a lot and a lot to take on in a job that is so busy already and so packed, and I know all of your staff is very busy too. And so we were talking that through, and I was wondering if you could kind of share, like, what was it like to kind of get this thing handed over to you, and where were you when we started?
Yes. First, thanks for having me. I really appreciate being able to share some stories, and my experience with the Leadership Lab has just been amazing. So I'm so glad to share all of that information. Um, yeah, our agency is, it's a very fast-paced hospital. It's a lot of competing priorities, a lot of changing priorities from sometimes minute to minute, walking in with a to-do list
Yeah.
and it may go out the window in 5 minutes from getting in the door. So when I was handed this list, um, the way that I can sum that up is just overwhelming, overwhelming feelings, overwhelming, juggling those priorities. What do I do first? How do I react to receiving this list from an emotional, personal, professional standpoint? And then, kind of picking myself up off the ground after receiving it and um, making a plan from there. So I had to work through all of that. It wasn't real pretty that evening when I received the list. So it was something that I had to just kind of process. And I'm glad that I received that priority list, before I had to face, my manager in the moment. So that was helpful to me.
Yeah. So, I mean, so often we get, handed these projects by, our senior leaders, and it's not what we were hoping for or not what we were looking for. And, I love that you took that time to kind of process it first. And there was a lot of things on this list and they all mattered. And I know they
Mhm.
were all high priority and we want them done yesterday. So how did you figure out, how'd you go about figuring out even where to start?
Yeah. Well, there was 10 items on the list. So I started just reading through them in detail, jotting some notes down of, okay, what is a priority to me? and my team right now? What is a priority to the hospital? And what is a priority to my manager? Because there's, kind of three key points there to
Mhm.
say my priorities may not be everyone else's and vice versa. So I started kind of picking apart what mattered most. And that's where I think the kind of the 80-20 rule comes into play. If I'm going to put 80% of my efforts into these three things, but yield 20% results, how can I flip that script a little bit to say, what is going to have the biggest impact first and foremost? So then I can kind of dwindle down on the remaining aspects of the list. And we're still going to have impact from those things, but we want to, come out swinging and see the biggest changes first.
Yeah, yeah, that Pareto principle that we talked about, we had a week on that, in the leadership lab, and it's such a simple principle, and people throw it around a lot, but yet, how often do people really apply it? And I love that you really took that tool to heart and, use that to prioritize the list.
Mhm.
And so how did that go as you started working on things?
It went well, and the great thing about that was my manager was understanding of we're not going to get all of these things done tomorrow. We're going to space these projects out. So what I did was I put it all on a spreadsheet, and each item had its own tab. So my first priority was furthest to the left. That's tab number one. And then I kind of worked backwards to see, okay, these are less impactful. They may take some more time. They don't need done right now. And then we kind of, prioritize that way. And then I made almost like an action plan for each of those items. So here's the issue, here's why it's an issue, and here's the steps that we're going to take to get through to the resolution. I presented that to my manager at our one-to-one, when we had the space to kind of talk through this list of priorities. And I wanted to make sure that she was okay with the order that I was proposing. Whereas my priorities or my opinion of
Mhm.
where we should be and when matched hers, or they were at least negotiable. So once we were able to kind of
Yeah.
determine, yeah, we're on the same page here now, um, then I started plugging away at the work.
Yeah, fantastic. And do you think that that shifted now that you've been into that work for quite some time? Do you think that shifted how you've been able to accomplish things with it?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. First of all, it established a different layer of trust between my manager and I, that she realized I'm taking this list seriously. I heard her. Um, I'm not delivering something for her. So maybe her way of expressing that to me is different than what my way would be to express it to my team. But really, at the end of the day, that doesn't matter. She has an unmet need from me. So that helped me to be able to kind of apply a different lens to our communication styles. So um, I have to realize now, okay, she's not going to tell me, Mandy, I need you to do A, B, and C, or here's my expectation on this project. I kind of have to read between her lines and think, is this what she wants? Is this the direction that we're going to go,
Yeah.
even though she doesn't necessarily always say it out loud? And that helps her develop that trust in me that, okay, Mandy's doing some real forward thinking here. I don't have to tell her, I don't have to lead her. She sees the direction that I want to go and she runs with that. So just kind of applying those different glasses whenever we're having those interactions helps me just foresee the future a little bit better, as opposed to waiting for things to fall on my plate or being reactive to things that need to be done.
Yeah. That's so helpful because so many people have leaders like this that don't really set the vision. They want something changed, but they're not very articulate about what is in their head and what they're thinking and how to please them. And so, you can kind of take a stab at things and it might be right, it might be wrong. And so I love how you set out your vision, worked with your team, and then presented that to her to make sure that you were aligned before you started going. Cause I think that's something that people can really use that model. So you've shifted kind of how you're working with your boss, and that's built some trust. How has that shifted your relationship with her?
It's really done a 180. Um, I kind of would go into meetings, whether that was our one-to-one, whether that was team meetings, and it almost felt like I had this chip on my shoulder of, I'm upset about this. This was said. I have this impression, and that's not fair to anybody. It's not fair to me. It's not fair to her. It's not fair to our teams and our business. Our business is taking care of people. It's not about ego, and it's not about, whose feelings are hurt. It's uh, what are we doing each day in and day out, that is going to help our team? So I kind of had this, and Jill, you helped me work through having this affirmation of going in with this idea of how my manager feels about me, whether it's true or not. So I made this
Mhm.
affirmation with her that, I just went in thinking, my manager knows that I'm capable. My manager has faith and trust in me. My manager values my work. She sees me as a hard worker, a dedicated staff, one of her strongest leaders. So me going in with that, assuming good intentions from her side, really did
Mhm.
change everything, because it took off this weight of, am I going to be viewed in a certain light, or is she going to think ill of me because of this or that? It kind of removed that language and that negativity. So I would see her walk into my office to do our one-to-one, and she came in with a lighter step. You know, I was sitting across from her with a different attitude, and it really did
Mhm.
just change our whole dynamic. And I've shared that with a couple of my peers that are lateral with me, that, hey, try going in with this and just see what happens. Because I tried it and it really worked. And it's really
Mhm.
flipped the script for some people, that uh, we're no ego amigo, check your ego at the door and get down to
Mhm.
business. We have a job to do, and
Yeah.
it's really just for the people that we work with and the end goals.
Oh, it's such a beautiful story because it turns
Yeah.
out that you changing your mindset could change the whole interaction, and she never had to change her communication style to anything different. It's still the same communication style that wasn't working for you and many of your other peers. And yet when you shift your mindset, it's pretty powerful. It can shift it can
Yeah.
shift the whole dynamic. And I love that you said her steps felt lighter coming in as
Mhm.
well. So she
Mhm.
noticed it.
And I want to share this part too.
Yeah.
When I received that first list, and this isn't the first time that I've had that emotional kind of visceral reaction to things and frustration when I'm receiving something at home and with my family, and it, becoming so upset and I was just feeling sorry for myself. Sorry that I wasn't delivering and she was
Mhm.
telling me about it. Um, so
Mhm.
I just had this epiphany. I'm not going to feel sorry for myself anymore. She's communicating something to me and I need to hear her. So that kind of helped me also flip that mindset of um, speaking her language and saying, okay, let's get down to business and let's check our emotions out the door and say, I don't think that she's intentionally trying to hurt my feelings or trying to bring me down in any way. Get that piece of preconceived notion, let that go and move on to what's most important.
Yeah, that really shifts it from feeling like a failure that you made to a problem you have to solve. Any other thoughts that you had about the Strategic Leadership Lab for women in general? Are there any other things that you picked up from it? This was just one example here that we were talking about.
Yeah. I think the Leadership Lab is an amazing program. One thing that was really enlightening to me was to see so many other women feeling exactly the same. Because sometimes you just feel alone and you feel like is it me? Am I the one that's just has this all wrong? And then you start talking to other women in leadership, and we experience so many of the same things. We, work with men in a powerful position, but we also work with a lot of other women who are just like us and take things in stride just the same way that we do. So that was really refreshing to hear of really, you can lean on one another and you're not alone in this journey. That imposter syndrome is real. The struggles that you go through each and every day are, they're natural. Expect them, expect the struggle, but then expect that you have the strength to come out on the other side of it better.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear that a lot from the lab participants that that is one of their favorite things about it is just the other women and just being able to hear all of that from, because we have a lot of interaction and you get to talk to each other quite a lot in that program. So if you had if there was a woman listening who had their own giant list of things sitting in front of her right now, what would you tell her?
I would tell her that the list is always gonna be there. It's always gonna be growing, it's always gonna be changing, and your priorities are always going to be shifting. So, be fluid. Give yourself grace to know that you have the skills to work through each and every one of those, even when things are added to it, even when priorities are shifted, or even when you hear really challenging and difficult messages. Um, it's it's a way to make us stronger. Um, I heard this saying that it said, "No good sailor was made in calm waters." So if we're not
So true.
challenged, then we can't change. And I think it takes a lot of courage to do that. It takes a lot of frustration, maybe some tears, maybe some, you know, thoughts of this, maybe this isn't for me. But they're
Mhm.
fleeting moments, those moments will pass. And you just have to remember that you have the intelligence, the bravery, you're stronger than you think. So um, take it one step at a
Mhm.
time and one task at a time. Communicate with transparency, and you'll get there.
And what would you recommend when you're looking at that list, trying to apply that 80/20 rule and everything seems important? How do you
And
find the 20% that really matters?
yeah, everything is important. So it's about um, laying it all out there in front of you. Maybe you put it on post-it cards. Maybe you put it in an Excel spreadsheet with tabs. But I think kind of prioritizing what you think and then gathering information, because there's always going to be something that other people didn't think about. I think we make a lot of decisions without important people involved, and it's usually the people on the front lines.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
that's why I go to my team a lot and say, what am I not seeing? And they'll always tell me something that I haven't thought of. So, you know,
Yeah.
sorting that out and then getting your input from all levels, from yourself, lateral to you, beneath you, above you, is super important.
Helps you see those priorities and it helps you figure out what truly is important, what's gonna impact the most parts of the business, and yeah,
Yeah.
it's it's important work because when everything's a priority, nothing's a priority, and so
Right.
we get stretched too thin, and we talk about this in several different ways in the lab, on different weeks, but there's, we get these bottlenecks if we try to do too much at once,
Yes, for sure.
thanks so much for sharing your story, Mandy. I know that that's gonna be really inspirational for people about how you can take, one project and, turn around a whole relationship with your boss and as well as your affirmation really turned things around for you too, and so it's a great feeling to be working better together, and I'm so happy for you with that.
Yes. And I want to thank you again, Jill, for having me on here, but also for inviting me to the leadership lab. I would not have had those skills without the leadership lab, and the whole SisterSmart program in general has just been a complete game changer for me. So I'm not done with it yet, and I really look forward to the future with your program.
Oh, We love having you. It's been really fun working together. So I would like to end every episode with 3 shifts that you can make today. And so first, get that pile out of your head and onto paper or onto a spreadsheet as Mandy did. All of it, like every project, every commitment, everything that you're quietly dreading, because you cannot sort what you cannot see. And the fog is not coming from the amount of work, it's coming from the carrying it all in your head at once. So the second thing is find your vital few and be honest about the rest. So this is that 20% we were talking about. Circle the small number of things that are going to produce the most of the result if you did them well. And the rest still gets done, but they stop getting your best 2 hours of the day, and you're going to really focus on the things that are so important. We call those the vital few or the 20%. So third, ask the questions that makes your boss choose. So in your next one-on-one, try this. If we only got 2 of these this quarter, which 2 would they be? And then that can really open up the door for this discussion of like, which 2 could you live with if we never got to them at all? And, they might not be happy to talk about that, but it starts a conversation about what is the most important thing in their mind. Because most leaders are going to tell you that everything's important and that they want it all done. And they do, but it's starting to find those trade-offs and what they really care about and what they could give up if they had to makes a huge difference. So thank you so much for watching. And Mandy, thanks for coming on and telling us this so honestly. Here's what I would love to know from all of you. Look at your list right now, and what's the one thing that you've been giving your best hours to that you secretly suspect doesn't really matter that much? So tell me in the comments if you're watching on YouTube. I read every one of them and have a feeling that a lot of us are protecting the same kinds of things. So your next step this week is to take 15 minutes, write out your full list, find that vital few, that 20%, and bring one of those questions to your next one-on-one instead of a status update. And if you want to do this the way that Mandy did, with a real project from a real job alongside a small group of women leaders making the same moves, this is what we do inside of our Strategic Leadership Lab for Women. And our next cohort starts September 11. And if you register by August 15th, you'll get the early bird pricing. And the link is below at sistersmart.com/SLA. So if you're a female leader that wants to make a big impact by leading at a higher level in your own career, subscribe either on YouTube or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. I'm on a mission to help more women succeed in leadership so the world can get the benefit of what women bring to leadership. And if that's aligned with you, I'd love to have you be part of this community and tune into more episodes on women's leadership that will support more success for us all. See you in the next episode. If you're ready to fully lean into your feminine leadership and get promoted from director to vice president and beyond, hit that subscribe button so you'll get all the episodes to come. And check out the recommended video here to see how women are rising up without playing by the old rules that built these male-dominated industries and systems.